If you think you already know who is taking center stage in Bridgerton Season 5, you need to stop right now. Netflix and Shondaland have been playing a long game, dropping subtle clues right under our noses while keeping everyone distracted by book storylines. But if you pay close attention to the eyes meeting across crowded ballrooms, the quick shifts in tone, and the secret conversations happening in the background, a completely different picture begins to form. We are not getting the plain, predictable romance everyone is expecting next. Instead, the creators are setting up a match so shocking, so full of scandal, and so completely out of left field that it will flip Mayfair upside down. This is the match no one saw coming, and once you see the evidence, you will never look at the Bridgerton family tree the same way again. To understand why this upcoming match is going to break the internet, we first have to talk about how the high society marriage market in London actually works. On the surface, every season of the show seems to follow a simple pattern. A new sibling steps into the spotlight, finds themselves tangled up in a fake courtship or a secret feud, and eventually ends up at the altar after a massive scandal. But underneath that pretty fairy tale wrapper, Shondaland operates on a set of very strict storytelling rules. They love taking to people who look completely wrong for each other on paper and forcing them into a shared space until the tension becomes unbearable. They also love subverting our expectations. Just when the fandom feels completely sure about which sibling is up next based on the original books, the showrunners change the direction entirely to keep the audience guessing. Right now, the Bridgerton family is sitting in a very fragile position. The older siblings have all settled down into their own happy endings, leaving the younger ones to carry the weight of the family name. But the social rules of the ton are getting harsher, and Lady Whistledown's quill is sharper than ever. The society papers do not just report on love. They report on power, money, and social status. Every single dance, every single fan flutter, and every single unchaperoned walk in the garden comes with massive consequences. If a young lady speaks to the wrong gentleman for too long, her reputation is destroyed. If a gentleman steps out of line, his family name is dragged through the mud. That high-stakes pressure is exactly what makes the hidden romance of Season 5 so dangerous. What makes this upcoming storyline so brilliant is that it targets two characters who have spent years pretending they do not care about society rules. One has spent seasons running away from the marriage market, looking down on the ballrooms, and hiding behind books and clever insults. The other has been stuck in a role forced upon them by their family, acting like a shallow member of high society just to survive the cruel judgment of the ton. On paper, they should absolutely hate each other. In fact, for a long time, they could barely stand to be in the same room. But when you look at the underlying psychological pattern of every great couple on this show, opposites do not just attract, they explode. Think back to how previous seasons built up their main love stories. Anthony and Kate were constantly fighting until their pride cracked. Colin and Penelope were trapped in the friend zone until a single moment shifted everything. The show never gives us easy love stories right from the start. It gives us friction. It gives us to people who challenge each other's deepest insecurities. As we step into Season 5, the stage is set for a collision between two people who have spent their entire lives putting up walls to protect themselves. They think they are safe because no one would ever expect them to end up together. But in Mayfair, the quietest glances often lead to the biggest fires, and the unspoken rules of society are about to be shattered by a romance that no one saw coming. Asterisk when you strip away all the distraction and really look at who is left standing in the ballroom. The real shift becomes undeniable. We are not just watching another standard romance unfold. We are watching the slow burn of two people who were never supposed to collide. For seasons, the show kept your eyes fixed on the loud, obvious storylines, but in the background, the real story was quiet. The showrunners left a trail of tiny clues that point straight toward a pairing between two people with completely opposite worlds. Eloise Bridgerton and Cressida Cooper. Think about how their relationship transformed when everyone else turned their backs on them. While the rest of society was busy playing games, Eloise and Cressida were forced into an unlikely alliance out of pure survival. They started as two people who could not stand what the other represented. Eloise saw Cressida as the ultimate symbol of a shallow, cold social climber. Cressida saw Eloise as a privileged, reckless girl who took her freedom for granted. But when they were left with no one else to talk to, the sharp edges started to soft focus. They stopped throwing insults and actually began to listen, look closer at the physical body language between them in their shared scenes. It was never about polite tea conversations. It was about intense, unbroken eye contact in rooms full of people ignoring them. Pay attention to the way the camera lingered on Cressida whenever Eloise spoke about wanting more out of life. Cressida did not mock her. For the first time, she looked envious of Eloise's mind, while Eloise started to realize that Cressida's cruel exterior was just armor built to survive an abusive home. They gave each other something no one else in Mayfair ever offered: vulnerability without judgment. The real proof lies in the dialogue setups from the previous season. Remember that quiet moment on the bench when Cressida confessed how trapped she felt, and Eloise did not pull away? Remember how Eloise was the only person who looked truly devastated when Cressida was sent away to the countryside? That was not just a temporary friendship ending. That was the setup for a massive emotional payoff. The show showed us that they bring out a side of each other that no one else can touch. Cressida challenges Eloise to grow up and see the world as it really is, while Eloise gives Cressida the courage to fight for her own freedom. Putting these two together in Season 5 breaks every traditional rule of the marriage market, and that is precisely why it works. It takes the formula of the show and completely turns it upside down. They do not fit into the standard fairy tale box, and that friction is what makes their dynamic electric. When they finally cross paths again, it will not be with polite curtsies and fake smiles. It will be with all the built-up tension, resentment, and unspoken feelings of two people who realize too late how much they actually mean to each other. Asterisk if this unexpected union ever comes to light. It will send a seismic shockwave straight through the heart of Mayfair, burning down every social rule the town relies on. A match between these two is not just an unconventional choice. It is a full-blown declaration of war against high society. In the ultra-strict world of the Regency era, stepping outside the bounds of traditional marriage does not just cause a minor whisper. It threatens total destruction. The Bridgerton family has survived secret scandals, sudden duels, and exposed identities. But a union like this directly challenges the very structure of power, reputation, and legacy that keeps their family standing. The biggest obstacle standing in their way is not just the judgmental gaze of the ballroom. It is the terrifying weight of their own contrasting worlds. On one side, you have a family built on absolute privilege, high morals, and a protective safety net. On the other side, you have a household driven by fear, strict control, and a desperate need for social survival. To cross that gap requires breaking ties with everything they have ever known. Every secret meeting in a dimly lit hallway, every urgent whisper behind closed doors, and every lingering touch in a crowded garden carries the very real risk of ruin. One wrong move, one overheard sentence, and both of their futures are erased in an instant. This high-stakes tension brings a dark, dramatic edge to Season 5 that the show has never truly explored before. Imagine the visual shift on screen. Rain-soaked streets, shadowy carriage rides through the dark, and private confrontations where all the polite smiles are completely stripped away. They are trapped between what society demands of them and what they actually feel when the music stops playing. The pressure is so suffocating that every single interaction feels like walking through a minefield. They cannot publicly dance together without setting off rumors, and they cannot speak freely without risking exposure. Then comes the ultimate wild card, the power of the press. Lady Whistledown has always held the power to destroy or save anyone in Mayfair with a single stroke of her pen. But how does the society sheet handle a secret that could permanently ruin to prominent families? If the truth slips out, Whistledown faces an impossible choice: protect the people involved and risk her own credibility, or publish the ultimate scandal and watch the fallout consume everyone. This constant threat of exposure turns every single episode into a ticking time bomb. They are playing a dangerous game where love and survival are at direct war, and the obstacle is not just fitting in, it is surviving the scandal of being seen. When all these secret glances and hidden stakes finally explode in the climax of Season 5, it will lead to the most intense ballroom confrontation in Bridgerton history. Picture the grand finale, a shimmering night at the season's most lavish ball, filled with bright silk dresses, towering candles, and a heavy cover of classical music hiding the tension in the room. This is not going to be a simple, neat fairy tale dance where everyone applauds and approves. Instead, it will be the moment where all the secrets, hidden feelings, and social pressures finally catch fire in front of the entire ton. The climax will hinge on a dramatic public choice right in the middle of the dance floor. For the first time, both characters will have to decide whether to fall back into the safe, fake roles society forced them into or risk everything by standing together in front of every judging eye in London. The visual contrast alone will carry huge emotional weight. The bright, glittering room full of fake smiles set against two people completely breaking the unwritten rules of Mayfair. One final, bold gesture or refusal to step apart. A shared look of defiance. Or an open admission that shatters a strategic engagement will draw a line in the sand that cannot be erased. This single moment will send permanent shockwaves through the rest of the Bridgerton family tree for seasons to come. It changes the game for every sibling left behind, proving that love in this universe does not have to follow a neat, predictable formula written centuries ago. It leaves the Bridgerton family standing in uncharted territory, forced to choose between protecting their social status or fiercely protecting one of their own against the judgment of society. Ultimately, this bold narrative shift is exactly what Season 5 needs to keep the franchise fresh, daring, and unpredictable. It rewards observant fans who caught the subtle emotional cues while delivering a twist that leaves casual viewers completely stunned. If Shondaland takes this leap, Season 5 will not just be another cozy Regency romance. It will be remembered as the season that dared to break the mold, rewrote the rules of the ton, and gave us the absolute best, most unforgettable match in the entire series. Asterisk, is Shondaland actually brave enough to give us this exact storyline? Or are they just teasing us with the best dynamic on television? That is the real question hanging over Season 5. Whether you are a die-hard fan of the original books or someone who just loves high-stakes television drama, there is no denying that this pairing brings a level of tension, heart, and pure scandal that the show deeply needs right now. It takes two characters who were written off as outcasts or cynics and gives them a story that actually matters. Now I want to hand it over to you. Do you think the writers have the courage to break away from the original books and deliver this unexpected match? Or do you think Eloise and Cressida are destined to follow the traditional path? Drop your theories, your hot takes, and your Season 5 predictions in the comments below. If you love this deep dive into Mayfair's biggest secrets, hit that like button, subscribe for more Bridgerton breakdowns, and ring the notification bell so you never miss a theoretical twist. Until next time, keep your eyes on the background of the ballroom.